past 11. I think let's just jump into it. It's going to be a very casual morning chat. My goal with these chats is I'm going to do them weekly, and I'm going to have a different professional on with me, and just open dialogue. Today's theme is how to stay mentally focused. We're all business owners. Some strategies that perhaps Kelly can walk us through about that. But if you've got any questions, just you can pipe in. You can interrupt us anytime. It's an open dialogue, or write them in the chat, and I can ask Kelly that. And it all started because the melancholy has been setting in for me personally. I'm an extrovert. I do like my downtime, but 4 weeks of not having other human interaction besides my husband and my son is starting to get to me. And I just thought, let me reach out to Kelly. She helped me with some strategies, some little tips. And I just thought, this would be a great thing for everyone else to hear as well. So Kelly, she's with Integrative Coaching Solutions, and she's an incredible speaker. You were with me at the Angelina Network, and I'm so proud to be part of BNI with her, and her being one of my referral sources as well. So and partners. So thank you, Kelly. Kelly, so what do you think? What are some strategies as small business owners that we can implement just to help us keep mentally stable during these times?
Well, I mean, first of all, I'm honored to be here today and to share with everybody. Thank you for inviting me. And just a quick note, if you can get off of the name screen and show your face, that would be super awesome if that's possible. Because, I mean, being on Zoom, right, it's not the same energy cycle that we would normally get chatting face to face if we were all sitting in a coffee shop. Yeah. So seeing everyone's face does help, just from a connection perspective. There's a lot of, thank you, Christina. Oh, hello. See, that right there just boosted my energy level. Absolutely adorable. There's a lot of things. I think, Angie, the first thing is just giving yourself some grace to feel what you're feeling. Right. It's, whether you're a business owner or, a mom at home, whatever it is, we're all experiencing this type of emotional roller coaster. Some of us have some super fast, high speed, Superman style dips. And some of us may still be on the, the kiddie roller coaster where it's literally just like this all the way through. But we're all experiencing it. And allowing yourself the grace to feel what you're feeling, I think, is the first step, right? Instead of placing some judgment, right? That I shouldn't be feeling this way, or what are people going to think if they know I'm feeling this way? Or, I have to be strong. I can't show any weakness, right? It's all these things and labels that we put on ourselves that take the grace away, right? And
right.
If we're going to put things in place, we have to recognize what they are first.
Yeah. I think that was a big step for me, is to recognize that it is melancholy. It is a sadness. The sadness of what's happening in the world, these heavy duty conversations. I know I've got a couple mortgage agents here. Heavy duty conversations we're having with clients about their finances. And we talked about this. We're giving our energy all day long, and look at Christina. She's got her baby on her lap. She's working full time. I know she's a kick-ass mortgage agent herself, and she's working full time. She's got her baby on her lap and trying to stay mentally well through all of this. Like, how do we give energy back to ourselves?
Yeah. And that's going to be very different for a lot of us, right? Depending on our situation. When you give yourself the space to feel what you're feeling, then, and you identify what it is, right? Because I think a lot of us hit that melancholy place. The first couple weeks, it was almost exciting, like it was almost like a forced vacation, right? Like we have all this free time, so let's work on that honey to-do list, right? And get all the things done we never had time for. And then, we hit the third week and then the fourth week, and it was like, shoot, I made it through the list. Now I don't know what to do, right? And it's not a vacation anymore, and this is real, and there's a lot of people being impacted by it. So
like, I felt euphoric those first couple of weeks. It was fun. Anybody feel the same way? It was fun. A new way of talking to people through Zoom. And there are days now that another Zoom meeting, I think I'm going to poke my eye out, is where I'm at. Hey, Tasha.
Yeah, like literally right before this, I was on an 1.5-hour Zoom meeting, right? And then it literally straight from one to the next. So yeah, I mean, it was a little bit euphoric, right? Even for us, I mean, we were self-isolated waiting on results because we had an illness, in the house, which thankfully wasn't COVID. But it was like, a new thing, right? A new experience. And now that that's over, it's almost like, okay, how long is this going to go on for? Right? That uncertainty of when that ending date is going to be. And that's what really starts to impact us. So, I know you wanted to talk about some certain things today that could really help with our energy level. One being, and I came in with an example, right? If you're on Zoom meetings, make it fun, right? Like most of what you do and how you feel is dictated by your unconscious mind, right? And the way that we react to things, the way that we manage stress, the way that we deal with uncertainty are really based on, programs or habits that our unconscious mind has attached to that, which causes those feelings. And yet we can create things that help break the pattern, and one of the ways is visual. The fact that I can see myself on a beach, right? And you can see that there's wind in the background, the leaves are moving, that visually triggers my mind to create a certain sense of emotion, right? Because for me, being on a beach on a vacation is very relaxing for me. And it can be very different for you. But bringing those things in when you're on Zoom meetings is one of those things that can trigger the unconscious mind to feel a different way.
Right.
And if you're not on a Zoom meeting and you're sitting at home, right, and you got the baby on your lap, right, still figuring out how to work and be a mom at the same time, which a lot of us are doing, bring color around you. The space that you're choosing to work. See if you can get certain colors up on the wall around you, whether it's just, a temporary painting or a photo that you can place up that has blues and yellows and greens in it. Those visual cues, again, will help trigger your unconscious mind to switch the pattern of feeling, which all of us are developing right now. And if it's not colors, think about things or people. If I were to take this off, what you would see behind me, I'll do it right now. So you can see pictures of my kids, right? So, I normally don't work from home. I have an office that I work in. However, because I am working from home, I've chosen a space that surrounds me with certain things that give me energy. And seeing my kids all dressed up on their best behavior for that one shot is something that gives me energy, because when I'm not around that and my kids are bouncing off the walls and breaking things and fighting and everything else while I'm attempting to work, can sometimes be energy draining, right? So pictures or things that give you great memories, you know, that you're not necessarily surrounded by, but you're being more intentional about being surrounded by them.
Right. So my blank wall back here could be an area where I either add my coloring, you know, or put some pictures of my kids up, or my dog.
Angie,
That's
you
it.
need to put bird feeders outside of your window.
Ah,
So you can get visitors every day.
yeah.
Exactly.
And I do love that. I do love that. Nature is really important to me. I love gardening, so I do get my outside time on the weekends where I'm in my garden. It's a little bit chilly for that, but I forced myself to do it last weekend, and it felt great. So that was some way that I got energy back. Is it anybody else have any suggestions on what they may be doing to help get energy back? Feel free
I
to
go
chime in.
outside and skip.
What do you do?
I go outside and skip. When I'm getting housebound and feeling crappy, I go outside and I attempt skipping. It's not as easy as you think, but I do 2 or 3 minutes, whatever, just blah, blah, blah. Crank up the stereo, go outside and skip, come back in and continue on.
Yeah,
It works really well.
that's a really great point, Tasha. I've noticed that with myself. Hi, Cecilia. What I've noticed is we got forced into this self-isolation, and all of our routines got interrupted immediately. We didn't have a chance to think of anything. And the first thing that got off of my schedule was the me time. So you going outside, doing a little bit of skipping, energizing yourself, physically giving yourself strength. I have not implemented those types of strategies. That was something that we talked about yesterday, Kelly, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you know, when you think about it and you actually reflect back, right, on how your days normally went. And I put normally in quotations because I keep hearing, I want to get back to normal. I don't think we'll ever get back to what it was before. You know, it's the things that would happen for us, our energy stuff, whatever that is, kind of happened organically around our schedule. Right? It wasn't necessarily in our schedule unless it was an appointment, let's say to get, you know, your hair done, which clearly I have not had happen, which many of us haven't. So it just happened that organic way around. And then all of a sudden, you know, like you said, our schedules got interrupted and we didn't have time to plan for that. And, you know, we still operated as if those things would happen organically. Because again, that's a program that's running in our head. That's what we've developed it to know to be true. So now we're, you know, attempting this new schedule and unconsciously, you know, we're not getting that energy level, and we're not even consciously aware that we're not getting it because we're still thinking it's just going to happen organically. So that going out for a walk, right? The skipping, right? The gardening in the back, you know, all those things that normally get you the fresh air and the energy and the things that are just for you actually need to be scheduled.
Yeah.
Like they actually have to be in there because they're important for you. And the routines that allowed it to be organic before are no longer there.
Mm.
So the fact that we are not, you know, not able to interact the way that we used to, that we're not able to get the hug, right, that we're used to. And you know, I'm going to feel sorry for the first person I see once I'm allowed to hug somebody, because it's going to be pretty awkward and long. But, you know, because we don't have those things, creating intentionality around me time is what allows you to gain the energy to do everything else that we're attempting to do at this time.
Yeah, that's really, really key. Well, you can hug me because I'm like so craving it. Does anybody else have any questions or comments, or how we can help each other in these times?
send crazy little videos to your friends. It makes them smile.
Yes, you do that.
Yeah.
Because it
I
makes
mean,
it makes me laugh to think that you guys are reading it and rolling your eyes and thinking, oh, Jesus. It really does. So it works.
Yes, it does.
it totally does. And we actually have a terminology for that. That's called a pattern interrupt.
Ah,
A lot of us, like 95% of what we do is habitual. And then you bring COVID into it, and all of a sudden it's like everything blows up, right? And our routines are interrupted. We can't see the people we normally see. For some of us, our businesses have slowed down or shut down completely, right? So what we knew to be true is no longer true. And in these times, we have to be careful because we can start creating a new pattern of thinking, right? If we find ourselves consistently, being on the negative side, which, by the way, the brain will go there automatically, more often than not. Yep. If we find that we're staying on that side, if we're developing this pattern of thought, those thoughts create chemicals. And just like, someone can become addicted to drugs or addicted to drinking or anything like that, again, that's an addictiveness to the chemical reaction. And that happens with our thoughts too. Every time you have a thought, it creates a chemical in the brain, and you can become addicted to that chemical and therefore build a habit of consistently feeding yourself that chemical. So a pattern interrupt, like those funny videos, right? That was just mentioned. That is a way to interrupt the pattern, right? It's something that totally catches you off guard. You didn't expect it. All of a sudden it just snaps you out of whatever thought you were in the moment. And in some ways, when you're like me, they kind of happen without you even realizing it. And your database sends a Christmas email out to everybody.
Perfect.
The beginning of April. That was interesting. Right?
Yeah.
But, ended up being perfect because it was a pattern interrupt. Nobody expected that email to come through, including myself. And yet it was hilarious, right? And it just kind of changed the conversation. It changed the thinking. So those things are very important right now, and they can literally be anything, and I love the crazy video idea. I feel sorry for my friends now because I'm going to be spending all weekend filming these and just like randomly.
I don't feel sorry for my friends at all when I send them notes.
She doesn't.
Catherine wants to introduce herself. This is what I have to deal with half the time.
Hi.
Say hello. We are homeschooling. Can you tell?
Yeah. Well, we all are, right? Like it's interesting. And I have such respect for teachers now more than ever. And I know I am not a teacher. As much as I love teaching to adults, I am not the same energy around teaching my own kids. And yet that's something that adds into our stress level at home, and how do we manage that plus everything else we're doing, and it's causing a lot of us to look at things different ways. And it's shifting our schedules in a lot of ways, because again, I'm not used to having my kids at home while I'm working. So my schedule is built based on how I normally eat, not how my kids eat. So they're getting hungry at 1 o'clock, and that's usually when I'm in a class teaching. So figuring that out, plus getting the time to work with them on their school stuff. And oh, by the way, put on that teacher hat versus parent hat, because those two things don't mix. And figuring that out, it can cause a lot of strain at home and a lot of stress, right? Because we're just not used to spending this amount of time with people normally, right? We normally have our escape outlet, which is usually work, right? Or whatever it is that we do, that time away, that release, that break in necessity. And for a lot of us, we don't have that right now. So how do you,
sorry,
sorry.
is anyone have like parents within their home also at this time too? Because we have in-laws in with kids, in with us. Yeah, it adds a dynamic, definitely, because that you just hit a chord with me absolutely, Kelly, when you said my usual work schedule when I would eat is not the same as my in-laws, as the kids. And I'm lucky with my kids. My kids are old enough to really take care of themselves, and they've really been helping us with my in-laws too. But it's been interesting.
It's interesting how many different hats we wear during the day and the thought process that we have to go through. So I'm different when I'm a mom. I'm different when I'm a stepmom. I'm different when I'm speaking with clients. I know the other day it took me twice as long to input an application because I was constantly interrupted. Or when I'm speaking with a client and there's people around me, it breaks my train of thought.
Mm-hmm.
So it's different, but it's also eye-opening as to how many different roles we play.
Oh, for sure. Absolutely. And what used to work before doesn't work now. The separation that we would just naturally get because we're all doing our own thing and on our own schedule, was there. But now it's like a smash up of everything, right? And I would say, as someone who has a lot of conversations around this and experiencing it myself, I mean, I'm not used to my husband being home playing Fortnite with my kids for 8 hours straight and, trying to do coaching calls with them screaming in the background because they just won a squad. It's having that conversation.
That was our call yesterday, and I heard John yelling, "Kill him! Kill him!"
Yes. See? That's exactly my point.
And John's a police officer, so that was a little alarming.
Yeah. I mean, so these are the things that we're working around, right?
I had my husband walk through my Zoom call in his underwear.
See? There you go. See? Like all these things.
And I'm like,
yeah. And you're still trying to work through the Zoom call without reacting as much as you normally would, right? And it's like, yeah, I'm totally there with you, Lori.
Oh my gosh, that's hilarious.
This is what I would say. It happened organically before, and now it's going to actually require us to have a conversation. We've got to get buy-in from all the people around us, because we have all these separate worlds which have all been collided, right? We're all in the same space. And the importance level of what we do is different for every person inside that space. So in order to make it work, we have to have a conversation around the importance level and what does my world look like and what does your world look like, and how can we combine the two where we're not consistently butting heads, right? Or interrupting. Because we just assume people know that, I'm on Zoom, that means don't walk behind me in your underwear, right? Like we just assume people know that. Mm-hmm. But not everybody knows that, right? If it's not something that they're naturally used to doing, they're not going to make that connection. And frustration shows up because we expect them to know when they don't know, right? Mm-hmm. So the conversations right now, whether it's with our in-laws or it's with our kids, it's really around how do we create a schedule that's cohesive to everyone.
Yeah.
And
that goes back to how we started this. We just all of a sudden got into this situation and there was no planning. When you go on holiday, you plan your day, you plan your hour, you know what you're doing. We were thrown into this and quickly tried to adapt. And I think after the third and fourth week, as that melancholy and that uncomfortable feeling starts to set in, we need to start implementing these schedules. Is that right, Kelly?
Yeah. I mean, I think for a lot of us, we've kind of settled into somewhat of a schedule now. you know, like it's almost starting to feel a little bit normal, right, on how we move through our days. And I think as we continue, especially knowing that we don't know when the end date is, right?
Yeah.
You know, it would be great if it's tomorrow and we know that's not going to happen. Well, we don't know if it's going to be May. We don't know if it's going to be June. We don't know if it's going to be July. So instead of waiting for things to get back to what we think they were, let's start creating a schedule and a cohesiveness based on what is and how it will move forward. There you go, Angie. You just got your
I got
10
my
minute
10 minutes. Yeah.
and that will help sustain us in the moment, right? Because and even when it comes with business, I mean, there's a lot of businesses that are like, you know, I was on momentum in the first quarter of this year and everything just shut down. And you know, how do I plan for a future when I don't even know when I'm going to be open yet?
Yeah.
Right. You know,
That's huge. That's part of my sadness as well. Having the most incredible quarter and being on target for an amazing year. And then and I'm very competitive. So I still have that goal in mind.
Yep.
Yet how the heck am I going to do that with this whole new norm?
Well, you know, there's, and I could talk about this topic for hours, but what I will say is, you know, if you were really to look at your year, you know, say 2019, for instance, and you looked at your numbers, you know, most of us as a business owner approach our business on a quarterly basis. You know, we set that goal for the year, but we plan on a quarterly basis. And majority of businesses, you know, tend to have peak periods in their business and slower periods in their business, right? Depending on the environmental changes that are around them in their target market. And, you know, for a lot of us, we had a great first quarter, right? Because this didn't really hit until, you know, middle of March when we went into lockdown. So if we actually looked at how our business works on a quarterly basis, essentially all we've done is shift the slow period. Because our business is already built on the fact that we have peak periods and slow periods, right? And let's say if I were to choose real estate, you know, the slow period is generally the first and fourth quarter, right? Because of snow, right? But what we've done is just shift it. So the amount of time you have to hit your goal hasn't changed. You've just shifted the period that you were slower in. Right. And you then move your plan for when you were busy into the later part of the year, because with everyone being slow at this point in time, it would make sense that it gets a lot busier when it normally wouldn't be busy, because all the business are now combined into that shorter time span. And if you look at it that way, then it allows you to feel more control on hitting that goal, because the goal doesn't change. How we hit it is what is flexible, and just start moving into forward thinking and, okay, how do I maximize the last 2 quarters of the year when normally that would be my slow time and I would be this far into my goal by that point. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. We have just under 7 minutes. Are there any questions from anyone, or anything anyone wants to add at this point on how they may be dealing with this? No? Kelly, if you can sum up, and we'll use the remaining minutes here, we sum up maybe with our, you know, top 3, 4, 5, whatever it comes out to, what we can do to starting today on helping us out.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So the first thing is recognize the thing in the world that gives you energy, whatever that is for you. And I'll be totally vulnerable. For me, that's watching Netflix. Netflix is my energy go-to thing. I am a binge watcher, and normally I judge myself based on how much I binge. Well, guess what? Now I'm scheduling it, right? Because your energy is the most important thing. This is the time to be selfish around that, because you can't give what you don't have. So recognize what gives you energy and create a schedule around that. and then have a conversation with the people around you so that they can do the same thing, so that you can respect their energy cycle and create a cohesive unit on what that looks like for the entire household. The next thing is create an environment that's conducive to supporting your energy. The colors around you are important. Lori could totally speak to this, right? Around impacting your emotional state. So recognize that and create a space that visually supports your emotional state. Also think about the other sensories, smell. Angie and I were talking about essential oils and diffusers, right? There's certain smells that impact your emotional state. I absolutely love lavender, and yet I don't want to be put to sleep the entire day. So that would be a nighttime smell. But there's definitely a lot of different smells that you can bring into your space to help with your energy level. And then, keeping awareness around your thoughts. We can't control our first thought, which generally will be negative, because 95% of the way the brain goes to the negative first. But you can control your second thought. And start journaling or just keeping a mental note around what you're feeling and what you're thinking. Because again, you can create a habit and an addiction to your thoughts. And in order for you to stay in that productive, efficient, emotional state, not just for you, but the people around you, it's going to be important to keep that awareness, right? Because if you are finding you're staying on the negative side, it could just mean you need to tweak your environment. You need to tweak your schedule. Maybe there's something you're ignoring in your world that you just haven't really been aware of that now you can bring back in. For me, thank God for Narinda, because, with this hairdo, and Narinda, you'll love this. I busted out those really long earrings on a Zoom meeting just to distract from my hair. And it was totally awesome. But, there's things like that, right? Like before the organic energy would happen. Now, I can't say it enough. It's about being intentional around your energy, and be selfish. Bring in the things that are going to support you, because you can't give what you don't have. Mm-hmm. And if you continue to do that, you're going to end up hitting a wall at some point. And Noemi, I did not get my text last night about the gym. So I'm imagining I'm going to get that today, or I'm going to be texting your husband, force you out.
That's awesome. That's awesome, Kelly. Does anyone have anything else that they want to add? Did you find this helpful at all? Did you enjoy it? Yeah. Just thought it was a great thing to just bring us all together. Many of us are feeling the same way. And Kelly, you helped me so much yesterday, and I just wanted to share that feeling with people. Selfishly for myself, because I like the connection with people, but also on another level, just wanting to give in a positive way. And you helped me accomplish that, so I appreciate it. Appreciate you being my first guest on Friday Morning Chat with Angie. Thank you all for being my first visitors, which I'm so grateful for, all of you and your support. If you just jumped on here to give me support, or you jumped on here to hear the value that Kelly provided us, I'm so grateful and thankful to all of you. So next week, I'm not sure what my topic will be, but I hope you tune in again. So thanks so much.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.